As the season kicks off, I want to go over what our goals are in the short term and how this season is going to affect our team in the long run. Recently losing a superstar franchise cornerstone of almost 8 years, you kind of don't expect to compete for a playoff spot when you have all these raw young prospects. We're kind of molding into what we want to be. We're looking at what we got. This season's kind of going to be not so much about the gameplay, more of looking at stats based on simulation. In this game against Miami, the tempo is a problem. We're not really able to keep up with the Heat. The speed is too much. Like you see, Porzingis struggles to get into the paint there on time, but he does block the shot. Now, I know I say we're not going to have a lot of gameplay this season, which is true. We're going to spend more time looking at stats and stuff, but this game is kind of important because it shows pretty much all of our flaws. Can't defend the pick and roll, can't defend the post, can't defend pretty much anything. Defense is a big problem. I know we brought in Norman Powell to help with that, but it's just not showing in this game. Offensively, the post game isn't really working with Porzingis either. His game needs to be polished a bit. He's not making his fadeaway jumpers, and we can't even get rebounds. All specifics aside, though, in this video, what I really want to talk about is our season as a whole, because after playing a few games, it doesn't really look like we're going to get far. We're not going to be playoff contenders, so I just want to talk about what we're going to expect, what we're going to expect next year, contracts, all that. As I've been simulating some of these games, we've been losing a lot in a row collectively, and the team chemistry percentage isn't really at its best, and I think that's maybe partially due to the fact that Carmelo Anthony is gone. Big hole in the team now, big hole in the roster. No leadership, but that's going to be fixed. Porzingis is still young. Dennis Smith is still young. We still need to fit that leadership kind of aura into the team. But right now, we're just sucking. And that's the only way I can explain it. Now, we're going to continue to ride this year out and see where we end up in the lottery. But I want to talk about next year now. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Teams like the Lakers and the Knicks in real life have made the mistake of using their market and their city and their team's history to attract free agents, and it never works. But we're going to take a different approach to team building. What we're going to do is we're going to build a great young core here in New York, enough to make us a low or mid playoff seed, just about there. I think that will be perfect to attract a nice superstar in free agency, or it'll give us the assets we need to trade for a superstar to bring us to that next level. Now, money-wise, we got to watch our backs. The salary cap goes up about $5 million every year, but I don't even think that's enough to keep us in pace with what we want to accomplish. We got to pay Porzingis in 2 years. We got to pay Dennis Smith in 3 years. If we want to bring in a max free agent, we need to have enough money to pay all 3 of those guys. Even mid-tier guys, role players cost a lot of money these days, and that's exactly why I value the role players on our team. Because we got guys like Willie, Kylo Quinn, and Allen Williams who are 3 really good rebounders, and they're cheap. They're not even expensive. They don't need max deals. Those are the type of guys you need on a championship roster. Although 3 rebounders I don't really need, so maybe one of them in the future you trade for assets. It's all a whole method that a lot of people don't get, but it's very particular. You need to know who does what. Everyone needs a role on your team. What I've noticed is that Dennis Smith is taking more shots than he's supposed to be taking. Porzingis is supposed to be our main scorer, and Dennis Smith is kind of taking some of that from him. So I got to lower his shot tendency a little bit to make it more realistic. But so far, Porzingis' numbers aren't that bad this season. They've upgraded from last season just as they have the last 2 seasons before that. As you can see, though, right now, we're kind of getting killed. We're down 10. Dennis Smith makes this jumper here, but, we don't know who the number 1 guy is. They don't know who the number 1 guy is. Porzingis is, but he's supposed to be. But Dennis Smith, he's kind of having a ball hog problem. I hate to say that, but it's kind of true. And that's something we also need to focus on fixing. We go into the half down about 10 as Norman Powell makes that layup, and we're going to skip right to the fourth quarter here because nothing really important happens in the third. Now, Porzingis gets that steal right there, and what I've noticed is that Dennis Smith is best when he's in transition. Now, I know I'm just saying before, like, oh, we don't have any speed, we don't get back in transition, but Dennis Smith is made for that. He's fast. He's the fastest on our team. Now, Norman Powell, he only has 8 points here, but I'm going to look to him as maybe like a second-tier scorer, and he's going to take on more of a playmaking role. I've said this in previous videos, but his playmaking ability is really underrated. Here comes Deli Trey, hits a nice mid-range jumper here. He doesn't really score that often, so that's pretty surprising. But, you know, he takes on more of a playmaking defensive role. He's one of those grit guys, one of those glue guys, too. He's very important to our team. But he's paid a lot of money, you know. He's paid $9 million over 2 years. It's around what he was asking for. But, you know, it kind of takes up a lot of our cap. We're going to have to maybe dump him in the future if we want to sign someone big or trade for someone big. Now, we take a big loss to the Miami Heat, losing by 12. It's a building year, so it's not that, you know, impactful. But here are the stats from the game. Porzingis with 27 minutes, 35 points. Only put up 4 rebounds, though. I mean, kind of probably because Willie Hernangomez put up 15 rebounds. Dennis Smith, 20 points, 8 assists. Now, see, that's what I need from him. I need him to take a little bit of a dip in the scoring and more of an increase in the playmaking. That's perfect. That's what I want to see from him all the time. Now, as we go on with the season, we're losing a hell of a lot more games. But I lowered Dennis Smith's shot tendency, and this was the outcome. Putting up 12 assists, 14 assists, 12, 11, 13. Exactly where I want to see him. Now, besides Smith's playmaking improvements, Norman Powell has become a much more effective scorer. He's putting up double figures every night, which he was never doing in Toronto before I traded for him. So I could say that's one big positive to pull away from this season so far. Now, when you look at the team as a whole, Porzingis is leading our scoring with about 19 points per game. I want to get his rebound numbers up, but it's kind of hard with all these other rebounders on the team. But overall, it's pretty good stats for such a losing team. But for now, we're just going to have to ride the season out and see what happens from here.